18 to 8 on the Boodles Big Breakfast. And this is a surprise. Nigel Hutton, member for Keppel, dropping into the studio. How about that?
Good morning, Aaron. Well, I thought at least once I need to have the opportunity to get up early and to be here, and with some important meetings here in Rocky this morning. What a great chance to see your studio. This is where you make the magic happen.
This is part of the magic, absolutely. Great to see you, and always happy for you to drop in. Not sure you should have brought a New South Wales supporter with you this morning, though.
Yes, well, I didn't know that I was making such choices. I've got the wonderful Vanessa from my electorate office who's with me. We're off to visit Bishop Danny at Bishop's house this morning, as well as a community corner in Duffy Park at Frenchville. So the opportunity for some locals to have a chat about their issues. We're part of our budget blitz. As you'll remember, just over 2 weeks ago, we brought down the Queensland budget for 2026-27. So making sure we're touching every part of our community and giving people a chance to ask those questions that they've got and have a chat to their local MP.
Well, I thought Vanessa was wonderful too until we found out about her blue side. But so what is on the agenda today?
So this morning we have a community corner at Duffy Park at 8:30. So I'd encourage anyone who wants to come down and have a chat to their MP to come down there. We're then going over and visiting Bishop Danny. So Bishop Danny has been ordained and brought in to Central Queensland. Unfortunately, I've just found out as well that he does come from New South Wales. So he's not only does he have religion on his side, he also now has victory in sport to go with. And then we've got some other meetings. We're meeting with a lady who's got an idea for a dementia-based retirement village, which I think is something that lots of Central Queenslanders would be keen to hear more about. And obviously, as a local MP, knowing that there is such a need in our community for services, to hear people's great ideas, to work out how we can connect them into government, is something that I'm really keen to do.
Surprises me that hasn't been done before.
Well, mate, I think if you have a look at some of the examples they have from over in the Netherlands particularly, they do some really amazing setups, but you've got to have someone who's got the vision, the courage and the drive to make it happen in our area. And if we've got someone in this young lady, I think that's going to be really cool.
So what's been the feedback since the budget's been handed down?
This budget very much has been around, it's a work person's budget. We're making sure that the things that we put in place are not just sugar hits that you get today, but tomorrow you regret, but rather making those structural changes that improve the lives of Queenslanders. We've had some community corners both on the coast as well as in the northern suburbs of Rocky. And what I've heard again and again is people really, really want that explanation. They want to go, okay, so what are the investments that are being made in housing? What are the investments being made in cost of living? What are the investments being made in terms of making our community safer? And once you've got the opportunity to walk through and say, hey, this is what we've done in our first 18 months, this is where we want to take them, people are happy. I think the idea that we're driving towards a place where we can see an opportunity to return to surplus, which I think many of us didn't believe was going to be possible in our lifetime, is great. Remembering, though, it is a very, very minor surplus. So any natural disaster and events like that could well and truly push us off course, but you've got to have that vision. You've got to say, hey, as you do with your own household budget, you know that for a while there you can run with deficit after deficit, but you've got to balance that, and having a pathway that doesn't see us cutting hard going fast, but rather taking a calm and methodical approach to making sure that as the pie grows in Queensland, that we're investing that in paying down debt as well as providing for the future of all of our families. I know, Aaron, your grandkids, my kids, I don't want to leave them saddled with a whole heap of debt that we've racked up today that they're not going to see the productivity returns from. So yeah, it's lots of good feedback on the budget, but it's definitely one where you've got to get into the detail to see exactly how it's setting a course and a vision for Central Queensland.
I was going to ask you about that detail. How much of it did you actually read?
Mate, to be honest, the first night when the budget came, and it's an interesting process, right? So the Treasurer gives his speech at about 2:00 on budget day, and every MP gets given this package and it's about yay high, it's about, I'd say it's about 12 days reading for one of my kids at school, but you then spend that night going through. So Parliament breaks really early on that first night so that MPs have a chance to go through and have a look line by line through the capital program, line by line through the various documents for each of the departments of government, and go through and go, okay, what does this mean for Central Queensland? So I know that Donna Kirkland was there with her highlighter and her post-it notes. Glenn and I weren't quite with the highlighter, but we definitely had the post-it notes, making lists and making notes going, okay, what does this mean? How do we put this together? What's the package that it looks like? And yeah, it reminds you of those days. It's almost like when you had to go to university and spend the night in the library just to make sure that the next morning you'd be well and truly prepared.
I reckon Glenn would have got Gloria to read it.
Well, Gloria had plenty to say about the budget, but she's always keen on a bit of chook feed.
Absolutely. Nigel, I'm glad you brought up school in there because there's been some terrible reports coming out of our schools in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're yet again seeing the survey data that came out, which talks about teachers feeling unsafe in their school, and that's something that the Crisafulli government's really committed to changing. In fact, to be honest, Aaron, that's why I ran for Parliament. Is that in my last year at school, there are occasions where, because as a community we were feeling unsafe, our schools were the same. Our schools are a microcosm of the broader community, and that needs to change. So we are making investments. You'll see that the first investments were not only outlined in the budget, but have already been tangible on the ground in schools. But there's more to do, and I know that Premier Crisafulli, Education Minister John Paul Lambrook, and our entire team are committed to making a difference for our teachers, for our students, because when schools are a safe, calm place, kids get a better education, and that means that we have greater outcomes for all Queensland.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't know whether I've shared this with you, but my daughter is studying to be a high school teacher, and she's in her final year. I'm scared for her when you hear about reports like that. And we don't want that. We want our teachers to be confident and want to go to teach and shape those young minds.
That's right. And that starts with having young people accountable for their actions. Okay, so when we talk about safe, responsible learners, we're saying the word responsible right there, right? Your safety and the safety of the other kids in the classroom is about us being responsible in that classroom. What we had was a situation where, just as we saw in our streets, where young people were not being held accountable, that was being replicated in our schools, and that was something that we needed to turn the corner on really, really early, because the behaviour of one child should not mean that 27 kids or that teacher miss out on being able to do their job and having their success for the day. And as a government, we're onto that, and we're making big steps in that direction, because I want to make sure that every kid in every classroom is learning every day, and every teacher not only is safe but succeeding. There is not one person who goes into teaching because they thought that it was going to be their chance to be a celebrity. They go into the classroom because they want to change lives for kids, and they want to share in the learning of these young people. We've got to create the environment that supports that, and the investments we're making are heading in the right track, but there is more to do, and I'm not going to stop until we get there.
So, Nigel, are you saying these reports that you see about teachers being harassed and some of the things happening in classrooms, you experienced it?
Definitely. My own personal experiences in the last 12 months of my teaching career directed me in running for Parliament, because what I was seeing was we were seeing just as we were in the community, that people weren't being held accountable and were basically being told, oh no, that's okay, you're not to blame for your poor behaviour, was then being reflected in our schools, where we're going, well, hey, hang on, if there's no boundaries in society, how can we, one of my former mentors said schools are the last bastion of civilization, how can we provide boundaries in a school and a classroom that don't exist within the broader community? Our adult crime, adult time laws are talking about putting the boundaries back into the community, and have set a very strong direction as to what our community's expectations are, and our schools are then reflecting that too. So there is more work to do. Every day I think about what we're doing and how the steps that we're taking make our community safer, make the lives of my colleagues who are teachers in our schools doing an incredibly hard job a little bit easier, and there is more to do, and I'm going to keep working at it, and I'm going to keep working with the Education Minister and the Premier, because our Queensland teachers and our kids in those classrooms deserve it.
Finally, the fallout from yesterday's Telstra outage. What a day that was.
What a scenario to find ourselves in a place where people across Australia could not only not communicate, but risk related to the 000 calls as well. It's something that obviously we need the federal government to be getting on board with, and Telstra needs to step up. We can't be in that scenario. I was telling you, Aaron, earlier that I was lucky enough to be travelling back along the Bruce Highway after having been in Brisbane for the LNP State Convention, and every stop at the Childers Bakery, at the petrol station, at Matilda, like every stop along the way, people having the conversation going, either because they're not 100% sure about where they're going, or they're having trouble communicating, how debilitating it was. Luckily for us, we know that all roads lead to Central Queensland, so all we had to do was keep going north on the Bruce, but for others, it was debilitating to their decision making. So it's something that as a society we're going to have to really work at and make sure that the federal government steps up and deals with.
Yep, good to see you. Thank you very much for coming in. Next time you come in after a Queensland win, please, then you can bring Vanessa back.
And of course, we'll need to bring the donuts then, because it'll be victory donuts.
Yeah, absolutely. Nigel Hutton, member for Keppel, great to see you. Thanks for dropping in.